Oh, Hugh Edwards. Well, I don't watch BBC. I haven't watched the BBC for years, so I haven't a fucking clue who he is. Hugh Edwards is the chap who's been named as being skeevy. His wife's come out because obviously he's too cowardly, saying that his mental health is a problem. Well, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't yours be if you'd been caught wrong like that and you had as much as he has to lose? Wouldn't your mental health be an issue? And they've thrown down the mental health ace. The mental health ace is really all you've got when you've been caught doing something like that. You have to try to make it so the world makes you unaccountable, because what you fear the most is judgment. He knows he's not going to go to jail. He knows that in a court of law he can make the case as to say, hey man, it's all consensual. He knows he can make the case, and it'd be a matter of he'll not go to jail for it, but it's really unseemly. Now there'll be an effort made to make it so it's not unseemly. So to make it not unseemly, he has to now come out as gay, doesn't he? If he comes out as gay, he will immediately get the protection of the cult. With the protection of the cult, he might save his career if he gives thanks and praise to the cult. That's how it works now. He's got to do a deal, hasn't he? He's got to do a deal as to what game he's going to play. And if he's playing the mental health game, that only works to a point, because there's a thing about the mental health issue, yeah, is that the currency they trade in is sympathy. People don't talk about that, but it's sympathy. That's why it's all geared the way it is, to be emotional, to make people angry. But it's all based on sympathy. If you feel sympathy for someone, you feel anger to something else. It's like there's a trade-off when you start giving away sympathy like that. Makes you an angry person. Feeling sorry for people makes you angry. Agitated at those who you'd see as their oppressors. So suddenly you're starting to take shit for other people. Willingly, for free. Now he needs that kind of support in order to somehow stave off the, basically the righteous armies of normal human beings who'd see what he did as being unseemly for a man of his station. Now, if you were, let's say, someone like myself, right, who'd done that, right, no one give a fuck. Why? Because I'm not an elected person. I don't work for the government. I don't get hundreds of thousands of pounds a year for being on television. I'm nobody. So it's a matter of, in my case, it's like, well, he's a shameful cunt, but not going to go to jail, but everyone knows he's a shameful cunt. And, there it would rest. There wouldn't be it wouldn't be a national story. The story wouldn't get as far as the end of the street. But it is unseemly, but not unheard of, for things like that to go on. And people who do it, not to get in any trouble at all. And there are those who'd say, oh, it's just a bit of clean fun. We're all consenting adults here because that suits them. And they project themselves onto this big shot and say, well, what's the problem? I don't see a problem with it for me. It's like, yeah, but you're not a presenter at the BBC and you can't get it through to people because they're narcissistic. They, in their minds, think they are. They think they're that big shot, that they can reflect their values onto somebody of status and that actually means something. It's like, no, it doesn't. What he's done is fucking shameful. And you can call it anything you like, right? And it'll still be shameful. In 500 years' time, it will still be shameful. In 1,000 years' time, it will still be shameful what he did. It had been shameful 100 years ago, it had been shameful 50 years ago, but we didn't have the internet in them days. We had other ways of shaking people down. Did I say shaking people down? I said shaking people down because I'm not a fool who thinks that this game didn't take at least 2 players that's been played. I wouldn't be surprised to hear a side of his story as to where he's been blackmailed, because that's probably the story. His mental health will be in pieces. Excuses he'll give is things like, I've been getting blackmailed and it's put a lot of stress on me. And it'd be a matter of, well, you know, you probably put your dick in an idiot, haven't you? You've given people money. Fuck knows what else he gets up to, because you don't just do that on the one spec. It's you're a veteran at that stage of the game, aren't you? It's like, what else has that cunt been up to? But there's no evidence of that, so we have to all pretend to be fucking liars and say, well, there's no proof of any of it. The Sun tell lies. They've been sued. Okay. Well, he's owned up to it now through his wife, and there are still people on that fucking Twitter saying, you don't know that's true. The Sun said so. It's like, he's admitted it. He's spoken through his wife. We can say that it actually happened. He's owned up. And they're still defending him even though he's owned up. Which is a thing, I can't get it to compute, but there are those who can. And a whole army of fucking lefties who've got their own battles have been making apples and oranges arguments, you know, like irrelevant arguments to deflect from it for about a week. It's like, what kind of country do we live in when it's like so many people would find themselves on the wrong side of something so cut and dry? It's like, however it gets painted, whatever the full story is, you just put together teenagers, crack. And it'd be admitted to now, it's a thing. Because the funny thing with the old internet age is that everyone's got receipts, haven't they? There will be confirmation of that money transfer. I can't see that he was handing over brown envelopes full of cash. Can you? It's like, there is a paper trail. There has to be receipts. Because that's all you've got, isn't it? Receipts. We're talking real receipts. We're talking like, PayPal me so much money. Wire so much money to my bank account. Whoever wants to play that game, pull that thing, because there is a certain chance that there's other shenanigans going on as to where this, from the other side of it, it would be seen as an extortion case. And that's the defence. If you were smart, that's the defence you'd actually pull if you got caught wrong like that. You'd own up to getting yourself caught offside, and then you'd open the book on being, well, this person, I helped them in the first instance and they decided to turn on me. And then what will the people think when I tell them, and excuse me, yeah, I think you need to be making some regular deposits into my bank account from now on. Who the fuck's handing money over for snaps like that to scroats? No one is. Why pay someone 35 grand to do something that some OnlyFans whore will do for 50? I'm just saying. It all stinks like blackmail to me. It all stinks like a scam. But saying that, there are those in the world who won't admit that, you know celebrities who get into trouble with young girls like Roman Polanski. There's a side of the world that won't admit that it was the girl's mother who sold her daughter to Roman Polanski, or put her straight into his arms and said, I've got a daughter if you want. Nobody will point to that. Nobody ever does. We pretend that that's not a thing. We pretend that women have got absolutely no agency or ability to sell pussy like that. And it's a funny old thing as to where we're not talking about boy or girl here. Well, it's kind of the same thing. This stinks of sex trade to me. It smells of a shakedown, and suddenly, 3 years into the piece, a mother and a stepfather step in and become magically a mother and a stepfather. It's just fishy as fuck, and that's part of the skeeviness of the story, isn't it? It's a skeevy story. It's a dirty story. It's you have to go to the depths of the lower ends of the internet trawl pool to find stories like that. You will find them, but if there's no, in the end, criminal attachment to it, you don't read about them, but you do hear about them. It's like that guy's got deeper and wider problems than someone shaking him down if he's got a few people out in the world who've decided now to spill the beans on him. It's like, what else you up to, mate? Who the fuck are you? Who do you really work for? Interesting stuff, isn't it? But saying that, there's no force in the law in this country, the way I see it at this moment in time, that's got the right to go and lay an hand on him, arrest him and interrogate him and ask him, what else have you been up to? Nobody, not at this moment in time. There are allegations, but hey, that victory won by the celebrity class that shut down the news of the world and got reporting restricted on the activities of public figures really did a job for these deviants in that sphere. It really did a job for them, because you can go to the newspaper with your stories of celebrity interference and they are not allowed to print them. They're allowed to have a go at non-people though, aren't they? They're allowed to have a go at, say, someone who they will have a go at. You got, as much as he's, not a bad person but a fool. Millennial Woes, they came hard after him, not really a public figure. They came hard after Mr. Dankula. They've come quite hard after Sargon, haven't they? Minor public figures. They just come at you as much as you like. They're allowed to go at you, but it's like as soon as someone's heard of that person and they've been caught wrong, all stum. They have to wait until criminal charges are placed. So that actually eliminates the possibility that if this wrongdoer, celebrity, well-known person, if there's other victims that are just waiting to hear the hue and cry, which is a thing, it's like a very human thing, that when the word gets out, the story expands. Well, unfortunately, that's been shut down altogether. So it's like, these guys have been given a license to do whatever they want. Because the mass media no longer exists as a medium as to say, has he fucked with anyone else? There's no one for any other victims to come forward to anymore. The News of the World, right? They took it too far. There's a double-edged sword to that celebrity salacious shit they were doing. It's only as good as the information that feeds it, and the people that feed it information are generally people who've had sex with celebrities. And to get yourself in that situation in the first place, you have to be a fucking idiot to the same degree as the celebrities are idiots going fucking strangers who think they love them. So it's like the willingness to wade in that pool. It's there. But by government decree, it was completely shut down, wasn't it? So what a mess that is. What a mess it is when Ryan Giggs had a super injunction put out against everyone in the world to stop his brother from talking about him. Because he'd been screwing his wife for 7 years behind his back. He shut the whole world down to stop his brother from talking about him. And that's where we live. Apparently we've got justice and law and order and stuff like that. It's like if you're Mr. Joe Public, you can be wrongfully accused, your name thrown out there, no protection, nothing. They put your face in the world as to say, we're looking for this guy. They'll put your face on social media wanting to track you down for something like non-payment of a fine. You're a celebrity, they can't do that to you, although you're supposed to be under the same law in the same country. How does that work now? Well, the answer is it doesn't, and there are those who abuse it, and Hugh Edwards has abused the privilege of being a celebrity to do skeevy shit with fucking crackhead people who would sell themselves online. No one's innocent here. This is skeevy. Everyone's covered in shit. And like, it's unconscionable. There is no defence. It's like, well, I'm mentally ill. It's like, yes, and you're doing things that mentally ill people do. The prisons are full of mentally ill people, if you want to play it like that, when push comes to shove. It's like, what a cretin, what a coward. Worse for him that he didn't own up, because handled the right way, not the end. But, you know, cowards, isn't it? There's obviously more to it. We won't find out any of it. Some move will be made across the board by the media to make this topic passé, like talking about the recent end of the Afghan war. No one's allowed really to talk about that. It's seen as being old and passé, like talking about COVID is old and passé. Talking about climate change has always been old and passé. This will join the list of those things, of things that it's become bad taste to speak of. And then we move on and we expect that everyone forgets. And we pretend that that's so. What a fucking joke.